Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to Behind the Experience, the car show. I am your host, Anthony McCrary. And tonight I've got a special show. Tonight's show is going to be, we're going to take a deep dive into a sector of the market that has kind of made a resurgence, more like the Phoenix Rising. I can remember, from my childhood that these vehicles were almost a part of everybody's growing up. At some point, everybody had them. That wasn't a status symbol. It was just better known as people haulers back then. There was nothing great and special about them. As a matter of fact, this part of the automotive industry died really a monstrous death. I'll say probably, anywhere between 10 to 5 to 10 years ago. And now this sector has now started to make a slow resurgence because they have switched kind of directions and they're kind of realizing now what people are wanting from these type of vehicles. As a matter of fact, I would dare say that at the risk of sounding, I don't know, maybe a bit too young, I would say that everyone at least born from 1980 on up, somebody in their family had one, whether it was mama, grandmama, auntie, uncles, you've rode in one. Hell, my first vehicle that I drove, that I got my driver's license in, that I even drove in high school and even parts of college, was this particular vehicle. And I'm telling you, it may be the most uncoolest person in the world, but I didn't care because at the end of the day, I had four wheels that I could call my own and go anywhere that I wanted to go. So for tonight's show, we are going to showcase, and tonight I'm going to give you the five, and I'm counting them five best minivans. That's right, you heard me, minivans. What, minivans? Yes, the five best minivans that you can buy right now in 2023. The five best, again, minivans. Yep, we all had them. We all rode in them. Like I said, I drove them. I have no problem with the ladies because you know how hard your game and how good your game got to be able to pick up a woman. And they, everyone got the Mustangs or the little Camaros and all that stuff. Not me. I had a van. As a matter of fact, it was 1989 Dodge Caravan. I'll never forget that thing. It was maroon, red, crimson in color. And that's back in the day when whatever the exterior of your vehicle was, that was also your interior. So not only was it this red on the outside, it was red on the inside. By the way, this vehicle, this particular van that I inherited, did not have running air. It had roll up windows and the sliding door, because that's back then, that was before you got two sliding doors on the side. You only had one. That sliding door didn't even work from the inside. And as a matter of fact, the lining at the top, the lining at the top had begun to fall. So again, imagine me senior year of high school trying to be cool and hey, what's up, girl? What's up, baby? And all that. And I'm standing next to a damn minivan. Everybody else stand up to the daddy F-150s, they had the little Suburbans, they, Trailblazers, the real ones, not these new weird ones that's out. They had their dad's Tacoma, Tundra, all that stuff. Now I graduated 2005. All right. So, Aleros, who remembers those would be Alero? Yeah, right. The Aleros and stuff like that. Nope, I had a 1989 Dodge Caravan. Wow. So again, tonight we're going to talk about the resurgence of the Caravan. Well, not the Caravan, but of minivans. And we're also going to talk about the five best that you can buy right now. And as a matter of fact, hell, there's probably only five automakers making them. Well, three really making them and making them at a very high level because minivans have changed. They have definitely changed over the years. They have now become vehicles that have now, at one point in time, they were seen as, they were identified as, soccer mom or, baseball dad, older people. And when I say that, grandparents had vans. ugh, you know, there was nothing special about them. They were just made to seat a bunch of people. Oops. Yeah. There was nothing about them that was remotely interesting outside of it sat a bunch of people. The rides, for the most part, in these vans were horrendous. At one point in time, the van, as we know it, the minivan, as we know it, actually was, like I said, it was truly a staple in everybody's family. Like I said, everybody at some point knew somebody in their family who had a van, a minivan. So let's not act like what I'm talking about is nah. That's not my generation. No, nope, no. That's definitely your generation. So what happened to the minivan? Why did they die out? Because from the 80s through the 90s, through the early to mid 2000s, like I said, everybody had one, right? They were almost a staple in everyone's family. They were the family vehicle. If everybody wanted to go somewhere, that's what you got. You got a van, and you knew that's what you're going to do. You that was just kind of a thing. That was almost a rite of passage. That was almost like dad going out and getting a truck. Like, duh, you were going to have a van somewhere. Like, so what happened? Why did all of a sudden they begin to go extinct? Why did they disappear off the face of the automotive world for a while? Why was it now all of a sudden not cool to own a van that still to this very day has reason and purpose? You know, so part of it, I can go ahead and tell you, is that the van, when it first came out, was a game changer. It completely innovated the way that we carry a group of people. They were You were able to carry anywhere between 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 people in it at one time. And I'm talking grown adults. I'm not talking, okay, you got the little, the little third seat in the back and no one could fit in it kind of deal. No, you could fit everybody in these vehicles comfortably. There was enough space even to somewhat walk around in them. I mean, they were nice vehicles for the time. So what happened? Well, styles change, fads come in, different things happen. So what happened, because you got to think, this is before SUVs and crossovers, really. Crossovers took over. The minivan was the third row. There wasn't really anything else unless you had a Tahoe. And a Tahoe was not a van. It wasn't. It still isn't. There still isn't any cargo space in those things. A Suburban was not a van. It was truly a monstrous SUV, and it's still a monstrous SUV. So the van served the purpose of allowing the women, for the most part, to be able to carry their children without having to worry about driving a boat, because that's what these massive vehicles were. They were boats. The Suburban, that's a boat. The Expedition, it's a boat, man. It's still a boat. God, yeah, they look a hell of a lot nicer, but they are still massive vehicles when you see them. To move out of the way, right? So what ended up happening is the automotive industry decided that, well, as they began to see the sales of the van decline, they decided, well, people aren't having as many children. They're, grandparents, for the most part, are the ones that are going to be hauling off the grandkids and things of that nature. So not everyone needed a van anymore. So they decided to concentrate on the nuclear family. And for the most part, that consisted of mom, dad, or just mom, or just dad, or however your family was, put together, and 1 or 2 kids, right? Gone were the days where people were having 5 and 6 and 7 kids. Gone were kind of those days for a little while. Now we're starting to kind of see a resurgence of that, and that's fine. Hey, no big deal. I'm not judging anybody. That's your prerogative. But what they were going for were things that were much nicer as far as aesthetics are concerned, things that were more modern, things that were sleeker, that were cooler looking, because not only were they shooting crossovers to women, they were also trying to get men, because most men hated driving minivans. Let's just be honest with you, right? So they were trying to find something to kind of invigorate and get for, and something for everyone to be able to drive, but still be able to carry, their children around. And when they realized that, well, minivans for the most part are going to be, grandma's kind of thing, the market decided, well, let's just concentrate on the nuclear family, and let's now bring out stuff like the RAV4 that only seats 5. That's more fuel efficient. That's smaller. That's not so lumbering as a van. Let's bring out things like the Rogue, which is one of the number one, crossovers in the world, right? That and RAV4. Let's bring out the Honda CRV. Let's bring out the Kia Sportage, that kind of thing. And then from there, that exploded. And with that explosion, and also because of the price point those vehicles were, the minivan became less and less and less desirable. Because why do I want to, haul around these kids in this ugly bubble-shaped thing when I can be, the cool mom, the cool dad, pulling up in my Blazer, pulling up in my RAV4, pulling up in my CRV, pulling up in my Rogue. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, automakers are like, well, there's still families that are, still considerably large families, but they don't want to drive a van. Well, let's make an SUV and or crossover that can still accommodate 7 to 8 people without all of the extra space of a van. Because again, people, just the stylings of van, they were ugly. I'm going to call it for what it was. Vans were ugly, inside and out. Because for the most part, they were just people haulers. That's all they did. They just hauled people around. There's nothing truly luxurious about them. There was nothing style about them. You weren't going to win any award of, oh my God, you got one of the best looking vehicles on the road. No one was going to say that to you driving a van. Nobody. And they still don't. Well, things have changed somewhat. So with that explosion in the mid 2000s, the vans start to decline. And again, that's when you start to really see the separation from the nuclear family, mom, dad, or just mom and kids. And then that's when you start to see the migration of the van go to the grandparents, because they were going to be the ones taking, the kids to practice, and they're going to go to grandma's house after school, after church, wherever, to the park and all this other stuff. So that's when you start to see that migration, right? So the van, just because that sector of our population isn't as large percentage wise as the other parts of our population, the van started to kind of die a very slow death. And it did. Because like I said, everybody had one as far as automakers, manufacturers concerned, everybody. Oldsmobile had one, Chevy had one, Ford had one, Nissan had one, Toyota's got one, Honda's got one, Kia's got one. So you had plenty of automakers that had vans available. And here's the thing, vans weren't overly expensive. Vans weren't, like, oh my God, a van is $60,000. No, people still bought Tahoe knowing that it was more expensive than a van. Why? Because they wanted Tahoe. It looked better. It didn't have as much space, but it looked better. So with that, the minivan craze just died off, and it died a very slow death. It started with a lot of your manufacturers starting to cut minivans from their lineup. Ford cut their minivan. I think theirs was called the Freestyle. Chevrolet cut their minivan. Nissan cut their minivan. It was called the Quest. Kia renamed their minivan. Honda, they redid their minivan. Toyota, that the Sienna's been around for a while. They redid theirs a couple of years ago. So really, and who was the king of minivans was Dodge. Oh my God, if you can have a Dodge van, Dodge Caravan, you were somebody in that world as far as minivans is concerned. And then when Chrysler kind of, spewed off from them and decided to, create their own minivan, who remembers the Town and Country, right? Oh yeah. That thing was beautiful for the time. It was. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous, right? But even with that, they were still very bland. They were still very minivan-y, you know. They didn't have any great, awesome, luxurious amenities. Yeah, again, it was still for the most part a people hauler. So throughout all of this, what happened? Like I said, they decided, a lot of your manufacturers decided to cut the minivan from their lineup, and that's what they did. They cut them from their lineup entirely, and they went over to crossovers and larger SUVs. And that's where we kind of still are today. You still see that. You see more SUVs on the road than almost you do see cars. You see third row SUVs more than you see vans. You see, Tahoes. You're more likely to see, 5 Tahoes before you see 3 vans. It just is. That's just kind of the world that in which we live in, because the third row SUV, for the most part, they're sleeker. They're in size, and I'm talking about your mid-size, like Highlander, Pathfinder, that kind of thing. Sportage, not Sportage, Sorento. Those, they're sleeker, they're more modern, they're more fuel efficient, and they're still able to carry people. But you can look good doing it. You're not going to be seen as the soccer mom, the soccer dad. Because nobody wanted to do that. It's my generation. My generation didn't want to be seen as the soccer mom, soccer dad. Hell, a lot of us still don't. And that's why third row SUVs have just ticked up, in the past, 10 years. That's why you see Explorer, every 3 years, there's a new facelift to it almost. Same thing with a lot of your manufacturers. That's what they're doing. These manufacturers put a lot of their resources. They took it from their minivans and put it into crossovers and those third row, mid-size and larger SUVs to give them better technology, make the rides better, make them more luxurious, make them more modern, make them safer, better engines, better transmissions, just more amenities that people would actually want in a people hauler. So, with all that being said, the minivan over the past, I'd say probably 3 to 4 years, has made a resurgence, at least within the past couple of years. The minivan has made a resurgence because at one point in time, man, truly there was, and even now, there's still only maybe four or five that are considered minivans that are around, when at one point in time you're talking almost every manufacturer here in the States, and of course your major foreign brands having one. Now there's only one American brand that makes a minivan, and your 3 major foreign brands make one, except for Nissan. Nissan does not make a minivan anymore. And there's been many interpretations of what a minivan is and isn't. And now with this resurgence, I think they have found their niche, and we're starting to see a comeback of the minivan. Can you believe it? I can, especially after what I'm getting ready to give you, which is the absolute 5 best minivans that you can buy right now in 2023. Why is this conversation important? Well, with the rising cost of vehicles right now and the rising cost of SUVs and crossovers, it's simple supply and demand. People want these crossovers. People still want to have these third row SUVs, but the cost of these SUVs are now getting astronomical. I mean, think about it. You're talking about a Highlander MSRPing anywhere from 37 all the way up to about 40, to about 46, 47. That's MSRP. Never mind if they are adding addendums or not. Same thing with Pilot. Same thing with Pathfinder. Same thing, and I'm not even talking about your massive SUVs. Let's not talk about Telluride. Let's not talk about Armada. Oh my God, have you seen the price of a Tahoe lately? What about a Suburban? Have you seen the prices of those? Now we're talking 70, 80, 90, $100,000. And I remember growing up, a Tahoe, a fully loaded one, man, fully loaded Tahoe was only going to cost you about 30 grand. You can't even buy one 30 grand. You can barely buy a used one 30 grand. And if you do, it's got a shitload of miles on it. Yeah, you don't even want it. And it's an older one. It's just kind of where we are right now. So with that, the minivan has kind of, in a way, snuck itself back in at a price point to where now it's affordable. But because now it's affordable, they have now, for these manufacturers that are still making them, they have now made them more appealing, more modern, and more luxurious and more fuel efficient than ever before. And a lot of them now are now considered premium vehicles. Premium vehicles, meaning that there are a lot of luxurious components and tech and modernization to them that a lot of your other now third row SUVs just don't even offer or don't have, or you got to get the highest trim level just to get it. A lot of these vans have it at, the second level or third level or the first level, and are just as fuel efficient, and now they're appealing. And I love the way that some of these manufacturers are marketing them. I think that's most important because they're not calling them minivans, especially right now. Kia does not, even though we know what it is, when Kia changed the name from Sedona, which was a horrible name, by the way. I just, Kia Sedona, right? When they changed it from Kia Sedona to the Carnival, which I actually think is worse, but the marketing, if you remember this from a couple of years ago, they said this is an MPV, and they drove that point home. This is an MPV. What is an MPV? MPV stands for multi-purpose vehicle, because they knew if they called it a minivan, it'd be dead on arrival. And with that, they then went to the amenities and stepped up the game entirely and put the minivan, I guess, category on notice. I'll get to them momentarily. So right now, the start is off, and I'm going to go in reverse order from number 5 to number 1. Right now, number 5, the 5th best minivan you can buy right now in 2023 is the Toyota. The Toyota Sienna. Now, the Sienna has been around for a while. It has practically looked the same for a while. So back in 2021, when they decided to completely redo this vehicle, what they did was, because they realized that, again, the minivan market has become a niche market, that they needed to do a lot of upgrading to it. Back in the day, the Sienna was just your typical van, and it still, for the most part, is until 2021, right? The only way you were going to get one really nice, you were going to have to buy the most expensive one, which is like, what was the XLE? And that thing was, it was gorgeous for what it was. It was just still, at the end of the day, a van. People holler. Right? So the number five one is Toyota Sienna. So in 2021, they redesigned it entirely. It looks like nothing that it did before. They put a more premium interior in it to where it's now more luxurious than ever. They completely scrapped the engine, and now the Sienna is a hybrid, and it gets one of the best gas mileage for its category. We're talking a combined MPH of 36 miles to the gallon. That's incredible, right? That's great. Now, why is it number 5? Because it's Toyota, right? You would think that Toyota would be number 1 because overall, Toyota is the largest car manufacturer on planet Earth. They make quality vehicles. They are a great brand and kind of always have been. So why are they number 5? Well, the Sienna comes with a few drawbacks. Well, one, it's only offered in hybrid. There is no pure gasoline engine you can get with it. And that turns a lot of people off because not everybody is ready to just jump on that bandwagon. Ooh, hybrid. They're not ready to do that just yet, right? 2, in comparison to the rest of the vans on this list, it's the smallest. 3, in comparison to the rest of the vans on this list, it has the least amount of horsepower. 245 horsepower. Now, some of you may think, well, I mean, it's a van. I'm not trying to, run the Autobahn with it. It's a van. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. 4, it's dated as far as the technology resolution, as far as screens and things of that goes. In comparison to the other vans on this list, it is not quite up to par yet as far as the resolution of screens, technology, and things of that nature. And because of that, it's been knocked back a few notches. Reliability is not a major issue, but it's only average. Out of 100 points, it scored a 70. Is it a 77? 78, right? So overall, is the Sienna a bad van? No. And it's not even priced horribly. MSRP is going to be anywhere from 37 to about 48. It's not bad at all for a hybrid. Not bad at all. You're still going to get plenty of amenities, fully loaded. Platinum's going to give you navigation, leather. Like I say, you're going to get premium leather seating, heated and ventilated seating, remote start, push start. I mean, you're going to get some stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice van. The problem is, in comparison to what is to come on this list, it's just not a great van to the other ones that's on this list, right? Number 4. Now, this one is kind of a mainstay. It just got renamed. They've been doing this van, and they are the only American brand doing minivans now here. And that is going to be the Chrysler Town and, we know it as the Town and Country back in the day, but it is now been renamed the Pacifica. It got renamed a few years ago, the Pacifica, what have you. And it is very nice. At one point in time, Dodge and Chrysler, they were the standard of minivans. If you can believe that, they were the standard. I mean, at one point in time, now this was many moons ago, but still, they were the standard. You just couldn't beat those things. Now, over time, things like that. Now, the problem with this van, and not necessarily the problem, good thing about this van, let me start there. Good thing about this van, it is one of the absolute largest vans in its class. So cargo space, they did and started the stow and go where the seats fold. Then that's the third and the second row fold directly into the floor. So you can use every bit of that cargo space there without necessarily having to take seats out and all that weirdness, like a lot of your third row SUVs have to do, or your vans had to do. If you wanted to use more cargo space, they had to take seats out and stuff like that. Yeah, they figured out a way to fold those seats into the floor. Very smooth riding. Now, here's the issue with that. Now, the horsepower is pretty good. Horsepower, you're getting 287 horses. Really great. It's actually got one of the highest horsepowers of any van on this list. So the Town and Country, because that's what I grew up on, was when it was named the Town and Country. The Pacifica is, you see a lot of those in rental fleets because of how nice they are. They're very, very nice. Now, the drawbacks on the Pacifica is that, one, I'm just going to put it out there. And it's not because I don't like this company. It's just because they just is reliability. They, out of all the vans, they have the lowest score. They are average, don't get me wrong. So I don't want you to think they're poor. They, out of 100, they scored a 71. What those issues are, don't really know. I'll probably say like most things, transmissions, I would say a lot of probably the problems that they have are the same things that they have with the Ram. It's, don't get me wrong, very luxurious on the inside, especially you get the fully loaded version. They are gorgeous. They are beautiful on the inside. But that reliability score is something that that's going to scare a lot of people away from the Chrysler Pacifica and the Chrysler product as a whole. And it does. I tell anybody, Ram is probably the most gorgeous truck on the road, but it's also has the most problems of any full-size truck on the road. And that's just the truth. Don't believe me? Google is free. JD Power and Associates says so. It's a very nice van. They still are seen as one of the best vans that you can buy. It's priced wonderfully. Again, anywhere from 36 on up to about 46. So you're not going to break the bank. You're still going to be able to seat 7. You're still going to be able to use all the cargo space. Now, here's the issue ultimately with that stow and go. The seats are very nice and they're plush, right? But when you do enough of that stow and go folding, it does eventually take some of the comfortability and that plushness out of them. The ride of the Pacifica is very smooth and very nice. Fully loaded versions, I mean, they're, oh my God, you would think you're in a luxury vehicle. That's how nice they are, right? But like I said, those reliability scores are things, stuff like that is what's going to ultimately push people away from the Pacifica. Now, number 3 on this list, even though technically it's tied for second. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Number 3 on this list is actually going to be its more expensive sister. Its more expensive sister is the Pacifica Hybrid. Now, this thing, as far as interior goes, it's exactly the same. No real changes there, except that it's a hybrid. Now, this one is going to get better gas mileage. Now, they say, I don't really know. They say you can, 80 miles per gallon because of the hybrid engine in it. When it switches the gas, you're talking 36. So of the hybrids, it's the best hybrid van that you can buy. Again, the problems persist with the reliability. And I can understand this one. This one makes more sense to me because hybrids, not saying that there are issues overall with hybrids. The problem is that they're just more complex components in a hybrid. So when things go wrong, they go wrong. And they can be expensive and get expensive very quickly. Now, the problem too, which is going to pull people away from the Pacifica Hybrid, is the starting point, the starting price of these. They are very expensive. They are. All right. So and on top of that, to me, they're underpowered. So if the hybrid Toyota Sienna has 245, the hybrid Chrysler Pacifica has 260. Okay. So we got 20 more horsepower, but the gasoline engine version of the Pacifica is 287. That may not be that big of a difference to you, but to me that is. Because when I want to get up and go, that's what I want to do. And that's the problem with the Toyota Sienna. There isn't enough get up and go if you want to pass a vehicle, I mean, it does 0 to 60 in 8 seconds. Good God, that's a lifetime, man. That's the difference between getting on I-75 and getting crushed by a truck and not getting crushed by a truck. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen or what could happen, but I'm just saying 8 seconds is a long time to kind of get up to speed. I don't have that kind of time. Those windows can, depending on where you are, can be very short. You got to be able to get in and get on it. At least the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid will allow you to do that. Will give you a little more. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with the transmission that's being used, because the Sienna uses a CVT still, and it's the only van that does on this list. Everyone else has an automatic transmission of some type, right? So, again, I think what's going to push people away from the hybrid Chrysler Pacifica is going to be the price point, because now we're talking, close to $60,000 for a fully loaded one, and the reliability score on it. But it was tied for second. Now, I put it third because I think number two, to me, for the dollar amount that you are going to spend on a van, I think number two and number one take the cake, but especially number two, because number two on this list, and I can continue to praise this company for how far they have come in a very short period of time. I don't care what anyone is saying to you right now. I get it. I read too. I know Kia is having a lot of recalls and things of that nature. But if you look, everybody's having recalls. Now, I know what they're being recalled for is some serious stuff, and I understand that. I really do. But it does not take away from overall the product in which they make. And the fact that they have completely decided to go all in on every vehicle. Not one vehicle that they make looks now out of place, or what is it for, or who is it for, who are they marketing to, kind of deal. Because at one point in time, you kind of didn't know who or what Kia was even doing. It's like, okay, this vehicle is for this person, but then now they make a van. Well, what's the Sportage? Why would I want that? What is this? Why would I want a Sedona? Why would I want the Sorento? Like, what? The styling was weird. Some vehicles were round, some vehicles weren't. It was just odd. But I love what somebody there got a cohesive idea and they ran with it, and I love it. So number two, and like I said, they changed their name. It used to be the Kia Sedona. It is now the Kia Carnival. That's right. You heard me say it. It is the number two best van right now that you can buy in 2023. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. Where do I start? When they made the Carnival, they had one thing in mind. Let's make the most luxurious, most modern, sleekest minivan that one could make, that a manufacturer can make, one that would be appealing to absolutely everybody, one that you could not help but be like, what the hell just passed us? That is beautiful. The interior of this vehicle is so gorgeous, and it's a beautiful blend of modern sleekness and luxurious track. It is gorgeous on the inside. The drawbacks of this vehicle really are only the fact that its second row isn't extremely spacious. They have now given you premium leather seating at its highest trim level. Hell, the second row has recliners. And when I say recliners, I mean just that. They recline. And I don't mean just the back. No. You can kick your feet up and recline in these things. Yeah, for real. Oh my God. The entertainment system is on the back of each front chair in front, right? Massive screens. It's not a flip down thing from the top that's in the way. These vehicles are absolutely gorgeous. They targeted those, like, I'll just be honest with you, they targeted luxury rich people with this vehicle. If you want to ride in a van in style, the Carnival is your van. It is. Now, some say that it's, as far as the ride goes, it's not as smooth as the Pacifica. It's not as smooth as number one on this list. In comparison to the number one van on this list, it is, it's not as peppy, but it's got the most horsepower than any van on this list. It's got 290 horses in it. Yeah, this thing's got almost 300 horses in. This thing moves. The cargo space is amazing. Now, the second row does not fold down or anything like that because, like I say, they're recliners. They are true recliners. But it's one of the largest vans in its category. Safety features out the wazoo, no matter what trim level you get. Safety features everywhere. And it is gorgeous to look at, inside and out. It is truly a work of art. You have seen, and they've been part of that resurgence of, wow, let me take another look at a van. Because I never thought a van could be luxurious. This isn't for everybody. It's not. I'm not going to say this is a van that you get to haul around, your 5 kids. This is a van that you get to haul around your aunts and uncles and your cousins. This is a van that's made for true adults. This is, to me, a grown ass van. Like, for real. It's beautiful. I mean, dare I say it's a luxury van. And you would think, because of all of this, you would think the price point of it would be astronomical. Now, again, that's not to say that dealerships aren't adding addendums and things like that to the prices, but MSRP is only 37. Fully loaded one's going to cost you about 50, 55, depending on the addendum. So it's not unaffordable. It's not overly expensive. Not at all. Fuel efficient. You're talking about, 30 miles to the gallon on the highway. Pretty close to that, 28 to 30, I believe. 5-year, 60,000 mile, bumper to bumper, 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain. Yeah. It's a nice van. Very, very, very nice. It is gorgeous. Like I said, Kia has come a very, very long way. And especially when it comes to that part of them, when they redid it and they decided to rebrand it the Carnival, and and their marketing, I think, was just genius because they didn't call it a minivan. They called it everything but a minivan. Like I said, when they marketed it, they called it an MPV, multi-purpose vehicle. And they showed you, even in the commercial, of how different it was and how much it was not a minivan. It's not your typical minivan. It's not your typical minivan, and it isn't by no stretch of the imagination, because they understood that if we call it a minivan, it's going to be dead on arrival. We can't call it that. We cannot call it that. We have to market it in a way that people are going to see this and want to buy it. They're going to see this and wonder what this actually is and the possibilities of what you could actually use it for. That was big. And then what they did with the interior is just, I mean, it's amazing. It's a work of art. Man. So far, number 5 is the Toyota Sienna. Number 4 is the Chrysler Pacifica. Number 3 is the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid. And number 2 is the Kia Carnival. So I'm pretty sure you guys probably know what number one is. The overall best minivan you can buy right now in 2023, and it's been this way for a while, is the Honda Odyssey. Now, this is what you think a van should be. If you are a traditionalist, is when it comes to a van, understanding that at the end of the day, it is truly a people hauler, but you still want them to ride in a and have a premium experience, and want them to ride in something that feels more luxurious than the price point in which you bought it at, but it's still very functional. That still gives you everything that you would want a van to give you. Honda thought this out beautifully. The Honda Odyssey, of course, it has seating room for 7 or 8. It has the stow and go they borrowed from Chrysler. So those seats fold directly into the floor. So you can use all of that cargo space. It's the largest van in its class, or second largest. I think the Chrysler Pacifica is a little bit larger. Smoothest riding. It's got a 10-speed transmission in it now. The power's there. You got 280 horses. It's got every safety feature that you can possibly think of. It corners well. It doesn't drive like a boat. It's a very and it's very nice. It's nicely pointed. The drawbacks of why people wouldn't do the Honda Odyssey is that they feel that where other vans have certain features as standards, certain safety features as standards. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay come standard across the Kia Carnival, no matter what trim level you get. The Honda Odyssey, you got to get a higher trim level for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. That may be a drawback. The Honda Odyssey may not be as super luxurious as the Carnival is. The Honda Odyssey is the safest as far as, getting all the awards you can possibly think of. I mean, for the money, it actually won the award for the best minivan for the money that you can buy. It's not priced crazy either. It's not overly expensive. Again, I preface that by saying that that's not including any type of addendums or anything else that, the dealership may add. The Honda Odyssey has been one of the best vans that you can buy for a long time. It's just kind of to me, it's just a half step, maybe a full step above the Carnival. And it's just because, they've been building better vans longer. They just have. That's just kind of the truth. I'm not going to sit here and make it anything else about, blah, blah, blah. No, don't get me wrong. The Carnival is not that far behind it. I think a lot of it has to do with they need to upgrade the engine and they need to upgrade the transmission on it. Better tires, perhaps, thicker tires to smooth out the ride, maybe better suspension on the Carnival. Those are small fixes in the grand scheme of things. It's not like this thing needs to be completely rehauled. No. The Honda Odyssey has just perfected its craft. That's all. And for the money, it is absolutely the best van you can buy. And that's why you're seeing people buy these vans now, starting by the droves. That's why you're seeing people buy the Carnival by the droves now. You're starting to see Carnivals on the road. You're seeing more Honda Odysseys on the road. In the pre-owned market, you're starting to see the Honda Odyssey be one of the best valued on, in the pre-owned market. If you want a van, you want a Honda Odyssey. One, it's a Honda, so it's going to last forever. All you got to do is keep the oil changed and get the regular scheduled maintenance on it, and it's going to last forever, man. And they just do. They just do. You still see a lot of the old Honda Odysseys on the road. Just because you can't tear them up, man. You just can't. They don't have problems. At least not a lot of them. You know, to me, is it as nicely appointed as the Carnival? No. I think the Carnival is the most luxurious van you can buy. That's just me personally. I would take the Carnival over the Pilot, not over the Pilot, over the Odyssey. I would. That's me because shoot, I don't want to drive. I want to sit back, kick my feet up. That's just true. Call me lazy. I don't care. That's what I want to do, man. But the Odyssey, it is number one. And it's going to remain number one until the Carnival, fully catches up. But you got to think the Carnival hasn't been the Carnival for very long. And I think the Carnival at some point may even surpass the Odyssey. Now, the Odyssey, the price of the Odyssey is not that different than a Carnival. The Odyssey is about 37.9, 38 grand on up to about 51. I mean, and the Carnival is 37 all the way up to 49. So you're not talking huge difference as far as money is concerned. And as a matter of fact, the Carnival was a finalist for the best minivan you can buy for the price point. So it's not like, the Odyssey is head and shoulders above it. They've just been making better vans longer. That's all. That's all. That's what I think. That's all. And I'm pretty sure if the Carnival had stow and go, I think we'd be talking about the Carnival as, tied for number one. I mean, the Odyssey got an overall score of 9.1. The Carnival got an overall score, what was it, of 8.7 or 8.9? So it's not like, oh my God, there's a huge drop off. There isn't. There just isn't. The gas mileage is roughly the same, 28 to 30 miles to the gallon on the highway. The horsepower is, 10 horses different. The Carnival has 290. The Odyssey has 280. Is the Odyssey a smoother riding vehicle? Yes, it is. It's better riding. It corners better. It feels better. It's not sluggish. It's the safest out of all of them. I mean, the IIH, gave them top ratings for safety. It's got 5 stars all the way across, and it's got 4 stars for the last category. So, I mean, it's one of the safest vans. Hell, it's one of the safest vehicles you can buy. And on top of that, when you go to trade it, resale value of these vehicles are high, especially the higher trim levels. So meaning that, yeah, you can put a crap load of miles on them and you're still going to get a lot of that money back. And it's gonna treat you well. It's like a Tacoma, it's just gonna hold its value just because of what it is. Those higher trim levels now, don't get it twisted. The higher trim levels, let me repeat, the higher trim levels. The lower trim levels, you may see some falling off, but the higher trim levels, they're gonna hold their value. So let's recap. Number 5, Toyota Sienna. Not a bad vehicle. It's the smallest of the vehicle of the minivans on this list, the absolute smallest. It's the most underpowered. It has 245. Remember, though, it is a hybrid. And ultimately, I think this has the same problem as the Chrysler Pacifica. At the end of the day, ultimately, I think it comes down, the issues with those vans are truly just one question, which is, do you really want a hybrid or not kind of deal? Do you really want to buy a hybrid? The Chrysler Pacifica has another question, not if it's going to tear up, when, because it has the lowest reliability score. The hybrid, the Chrysler Pacifica hybrid, is the most expensive van on this list. Do you really want to pay that extra when you can get a fully loaded Sienna for less than, a fully loaded Pacifica. Just being honest. So no, Toyota isn't a bad van. It's not. It's a great van. Number 4, like I say, is the gasoline engine Pacifica. Those are the ones that you see most on the roads. Like I say, you see a lot of those in rental fleets because it's a great van. Spacious, stow and goes great, great gas mileage, all the amenities you can possibly want on the highest trim level, nicely appointed. Number 3 is that hybrid. Like I said, Chrysler Pacifica. Do you really want a hybrid? Number 2, I think, is the best overall to me, valued for the money and the things that the amenities that you can get with this vehicle, with this minivan, is the Kia Carnival. Most horsepower. It's very spacious on the inside. To me, it's the most luxurious out of all of them. Nice and sleek, modern. That's the word. It's modern. It makes you want to, that van makes you want to buy a van. And I think, to me, that's what Honda is missing. When I see an Odyssey, I don't go, ooh, I want to buy an Odyssey. But when I see a Carnival, it's like, man, I'd drive that. If I just had to buy a van, I'd buy that one. Like I say, second row reclines. Like, you have recliners in the second row. And number 1, because it is a true minivan, is the Honda Odyssey. Can't go wrong with that. They've been making minivans and good minivans for a long time. So tonight, I hope we learned something. I hope tonight that you see minivans differently. I hope tonight that you because the third row SUVs and other crossovers are becoming, pretty expensive. Well, next time that you go, don't shy away from the minivan. They're not your mom's old minivan. They're not. They're not your old grandmother's minivan.
I'm still trying to picture you and a dating man over there with a minivan trying to pick up the women in a minivan, because that is not the car of choice for most folks that are doing the pickup line. So I was trying to picture you over there with the minivan trying to pick up the young high school and maybe the young college folks in your high school and college days. I was going like, that had to be a hard sell. But we know Anthony's got skills and he was probably a jock, so you were able to pull it off some kind of way. But I was going like, that had to be a serious hard sale.
Whew. You have no idea. That's why I say, like, I'm not scared of any woman on planet Earth. You want to know why? Because if I could pick them up, if my game was that good to be able to say, oh, this is mine, this is minivan. You know how good your game got to be. Everyone's pulling off in the cameras and Chargers and things, and I'm all right. Here's my van. Here's my ride.
I had that ride and everything. Speaking of rides, and I know you're getting ready to get out of here. Since we're getting ready to get out of here, I was actually finding some of y'all's newer commercials, including one that almost shot like a movie, because it was somebody that was trying to deal with a girlfriend going to Paris, and y'all did a whole commercial around that. That is a newer commercial and all in that space. So I actually dug that commercial up, and we could show that on the way out, because that's one of the commercials that I found. That is one of y'all's newer commercials from Valdosta Nissan.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, you guys, if you guys want to connect with me, remember you guys can do that, McCraryExperience.com. Of course, you can connect with me again on Facebook at the McCrary Experience. YouTube is Behind the Experience, the Car Show. I'll see you guys next week.
Sounds great. Let's check out a couple of these commercials from Valdosta Nissan.
car dealer has online car shopping, but they want you to do all the work. At Valdosta Nissan, we encourage you to go to valdostanissan.com and browse around a bit. But then come on into our dealership and sit down with one of our professional sales consultants to order your dream car Nissan. We can answer questions about the latest options, new Nissan driving technology, and make sure you get the exact Nissan you've been wanting. So come on in and see us today at Valdosta Nissan.